What is up? What is good, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more CSGO news. If you missed it this past weekend, the great end to this season of CSGO, that being ESL Pro League Finals following ECS Finals the weekend before. And what a great close to this season so far, this year of CSGO, which hopefully continues to be a great season following into 2020. If you guys did miss it, well, you probably should click away, but I probably already baited you with the title and the thumbnail as to exactly what happened. It was a miracle, I would say. You know, a great event out of many teams out there. Let me preface everything by kind of some quick notes besides that of Mousesports, which I could not be happier about. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time when it comes to making CSGO videos where I've actually said I am super happy to announce the winners of an event, that being ESL Pro League Finals winner being Mousesports. But again, very quickly, I would say other notes out there when it comes time for the final finishes. Nothing that was all too surprising besides two big things that did happen, that being G2, a prospect out there that I think many people, especially French fans, would say was a rising team. They have the closest series with Astralis, I would say, of the entire event. Map 2 and 3, one going to overtime, one going to match point, both in favor of Astralis to take that best of 3 series. G2 almost beat the #1 team in the world, the Danes themselves. They go to lower bracket and lose to ATK. Now, I'm not trying to diss on ATK, but after a performance against Astralis they put up, to lose and be eliminated by ATK, that was a huge surprise. Besides that, #2 surprise, I would say, of the entire event, that being Mousesports quarterfinal versus EG, map 3 nuke. Yeah, EG gets 16-0'd in an ESL Pro League record, as they do state. They took their jokes at it. It did not look good. Okay, on a main stage, especially in a playoff matchup with a team like EG, who, yes, they've kind of kiltered off ever since they announced with this new lineup, but still, obviously, one of the best North American lineups and lineups in the entire world. To get 16-0'd by a young Mousesports, who, yes, they win the event, it did not look good. ESL Pro League had their jokes, and even in the description of the video, I'm going to read this off for all of you guys. NA, man. NA, as they did go on to state. As a European, it was always hard for me to understand American culture. What was fascinating for me is that they like bragging about their freedom, which was weird for me, because I didn't think that I have any less freedom than them. I always thought, what is the difference? However, after this game, I finally understand it. NA is just so free. For all of you guys who do not understand that quote, how I took it is that when it came down to map 3, getting 16-0'd, a matchup against a North American team is free because it should be, in that sense, a free win. Not a good look. Huge props to ESL for making the jokes. Yeah. But besides all that, guys, I would say nothing too surprising. North had a pretty poor performance on top of all of that. The focus here, of course, has to be on Mousesports, a team out there who has been a young gun team ever since they signed Kerrigan and the bunch as this new roster. It has taken many months to close out this year in perfection. 2 weekends and 2 titles for Mousesports to close out their 2019 season. And I could not be more excited for this. I think the last time I talked about this kind of excitement for a team out there is a team like Fnatic, who I'm still very excited for. I think Don Hossie, others put it very well out there on Twitter. I love where we're at currently in CSGO, where it's not only Astralis and Liquid to worry about. You throw in EG, you throw out Fnatic, you throw in maybe a random G2 from time to time, and especially now you throw in a Mousesports. I like where we actually have a CSGO competitive environment where more than 2 teams are dominating and actually have a chance to win. It's a great season to actually come to a close. And with that being said, Mouz in their run, you know, to go from upper bracket, a close series with Liquid, which, by the way, I think many people, it was so narrow-minded and so narrow set. I think that series could have obviously gone either way. They fall to Liquid, they go to lower bracket, they still make playoffs, then they take off your #1, 2, and your #4 teams. I guess you could obviously argue, though, they took down the #1, 2, and 3 teams. Either way, they took down at least 2 of your top 3 teams in the entire world during this run, and narrowly took down a 3rd or a 4th as well. I probably misworded that kind of in a sense, but when you think about this run, guys, they lose a very narrow series to a team like Liquid, who is arguably a top 3 team in the world by most standards out there. That series could have gone either way. Then they take down EG in strong fashion, map 3, 16-0. Then they take down Astralis, obviously widely considered the #1 team in the world. And then they take down Fnatic in a very dominant best-of-5 3-0 sweep, which, by the way, in the second half of that series, throughout all 3 maps, Fnatic entirely throughout those 3 maps, they averaged 3 rounds in their second half. They start so strong and were shut down absolutely in every single second half, besides that map 3 kind of, against a Mousesports who take this series, they take their second title throughout the year, and they take their second title throughout 2019 in the past 2 weeks alone. And again, just a super exciting run, a very dominant run, and again, a run you you cannot contest was very, very impressive. Huge congrats to Mousesports. Kerrigan was in tears, and rightfully so. It's great to see him back. On top of that, Rops earns his MVP. It's super fun to see another team out there in the mix yet again as we enter 2020. What did you guys think about that? But the second half of this story, obviously a big one as well, that being crowd noises. They keep on being a thing. They're still a thing. They always will be unless there's a fix sometime in the future. This being the latest debate out there. Astralis, during this clip I'm about to show you guys, using the crowd noise to potentially help them in a situation.
I got you.
Yeah, the two of them been duking it out. He was actually just checking for the little boost on the spool, so he was not ready for this. Or is he? My goodness, how interesting. Zipex through underpass. He's got Glaive in tow as well. And they get the frag! Unbelievable!
And when I first saw this, I thought, the hypocrisy, right? The first thought in my mind was, of course, to think this is just a wrong thing to do. I think after further explanation, though, I really do start to see it from the player's point of view and why they're not receiving too much backlash for this. It comes down to who do you blame, right? Do you blame the players? Do you blame the crowd? Do you blame the tournament organizer? Ever since then, several pro players have responded. You guys can leave your thoughts down below. Dupree, shortly after the match, he left his thoughts out there. And to summarize those, I think he made a pretty solid point. At what point, do you really blame the players for using the crowd? Do you expect them to kind of just avoid the noise as if it never happened at all? I don't know. And I think Zipex had a great post about this as well. I really encourage you guys to go read their post in their entirety. Zipex posted this morning about this, which kind of attuned to a lot of the points out there made by other pro players who, by the way, are backing Astralis on this. There's not necessarily a player blame here because, if the crowd chooses to make these noises, what player in their right mind would ignore that? Zipex goes on to state, would you rather me go out and just die to the player that I know is there via the crowd noise? No, you can't ignore that as a pro player when so much money's on the line and so much of course, when it comes to the entire event itself. Along with that, though, he makes sure not to blame the crowd either, which I thought was a very smart point to make. When you fill an arena or a stadium with thousands of crazy fans out there and they see a play like that, how are you expected to just stay quiet, right? When a guy like Zipex or Dupree or Glaive, they put on a great show and they have that knowledge to understand that someone might be there in the crowd, are you really going to sit back and just be like, no, you're going to make some noise? So he made a really great point, and that really kind of changed my head on all of this, where he does place at least partial blame, it does seem, on the tournament organizer for several reasons out there. Now, one being soundproof boost. We've heard this talk a lot, and Rops even goes on to make a similar statement. Both Rops and Zipex made the same statement when it comes to nades, flashes, mollies, whatever it might be, the popping noise, the sound it does make in the actual stage itself. It gives you actual cues, sound cues, because of the giant booming speakers right by all the players. They pop differently when they're actually popped on players, and obviously when you hear those sound cues, you would never hear at home, you would never hear in a private setting, but because you're in a giant stadium with giant speakers, it does give a lot of hints away. And so soundproof booth seems to be the fix that a lot of players are going for, which we have talked about in the past. Huge shouts to Gamertag, by the way, all of you guys who send me DMs about this kind of stuff. We've had this notion in the past of why doesn't every organizer use soundproof booths to try and at least avoid as much crowd noise as possible, try and avoid all the sound cues given away by the speakers of the organizer. And, here's the reason. Reason number one, obviously, being that it puts a lot of extra cost on the TO who are already trying to make a profit. So that's a bit of a stretch in some senses. Thanks to Adam Apicella, I always mispronounce his name as well, formerly and still of the Call of Duty community. He made sure to note as well, I believe he's formerly with MLG, soundproof booths are actually against fire code for a lot of places as well. So when it comes time to fixing these issues, it's a giant debate. You don't just tell the crowd to be quiet. You don't just turn down the speakers so there's no sound cues at all. It's definitely a complex issue out there. And so yes, at the end of the day, after that clip, at first regard, I was like, wow, I'm pretty upset. After further explanation, though, many players, no player out there, actually I should say, many players have now backed up Astralis, and no player out there would ignore crowd noise. So what is the fix? It's a question for all of you guys, you geniuses out there. What is the fix? Until next time, hope you guys all enjoy. I have videos all day long coming out. I'm feeling pretty good today, so I hope you guys all enjoy. As always, if you guys have a story for me, my DMs are open. The comment section is open. I hope you guys all had a great weekend and have a great rest of your week as well. Stay strong, my boys, and you 1.6% girls out there. Drink some coffee, drink some OJ. I'll be back here all day long. Until next time, bye-bye.